All right, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. It is pushing the limits time, and I am so glad that you can join us on this chilly, well, I was going to say Tuesday morning, Tuesday afternoon, and we got some great guests lined up for you today. We're going to have some fun, talk about some of the breaking news that's been happening across the country, local, national, and we have a very controversial figure joining us at hour number 2. He is a political operative, certainly was for Donald Trump. He was banned from Twitter and he was just reinstated. This man's been a political operative for decades and decades and decades, certainly a household name. Roger Stone will be joining us at the top of the hour. Oh, boy. Do I have a lot of questions to get to to Roger Stone? And I know he's going to answer all of them because he's been on this show before and he answers questions. He's not afraid of any question, which I appreciate. He said in a documentary that he said, F the voting, let's get right to the violence before January 6th. I'm going to ask him about that statement and many, many other statements. We're going to talk about Mark Meadows. Have you heard about this? Over 2,300 text messages have been released between him and members of Congress, Republicans, in efforts to overthrow the 2020 election. That's right. What does this mean for these politicians? Well, we're certainly going to talk about that. Update on Brittany Griner. Also an update on this Chris Beard situation. I mean, this is really troubling, and the details are getting worse for, I should say, probably former basketball coach over there in Texas, Chris Beard, on domestic violence. So new details coming out about that. We'll certainly catch up on that story as well, and even talk a little bit about Elon Musk, Twitter. What has he been tweeting out? Any new information on this Hunter Biden laptop? I know Michelle wants to talk about that. And Michelle Mortensen, the 8-time Emmy winner, joining me today on Tuesday, normally Wednesdays. I think the listeners, Michelle, deserve to know why you're here Tuesday instead of Wednesday. What's going on?
You know what? I have doctor's appointments tomorrow, and you know what it is when
that's
doctors,
understandable.
You have to schedule them months in advance, and they're real persnickety. And you get in, and you're like, okay, I have to have this appointment, or I have to give up my firstborn. So when they want you there Wednesday at noon, you take it. So that's what the big change
I think
is.
that's a legitimate excuse. Very, very fair.
Yeah,
well, I'm
very,
glad,
very fair.
Well, I'm glad you're here, and we swapped a little bit because Thomas Moskal, attorney, will be joining us tomorrow. We also have some interesting guests tomorrow. The UNLV athletic director, Mr. Harper, Eric Harper, is going to be joining us tomorrow as well. We have a very funny comedian that's going to be joining us tomorrow. So we're jam-packed. Thursday, the new head coach of the Las Vegas Desert Dogs. They open up their season Friday. He's going to be joining me on Thursday. So we got a lot of great guests lined up. Glad you're here, Michelle. All right, I got to start with this story that broke yesterday. And Donald Trump's chief of staff, Mark Meadows. He was forced to hand over 2,300 text messages to the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Some of these text messages were obtained by Talking Points memo, which reported on the context in which Meadows was communicating with members of Congress about overturning the 2020 election. One of those is Representative Ralph Norman, a Republican, who sent a text message on January 17th asking if Trump could impose martial law. The same with Marjorie Taylor Greene. We are talking over 30 members of Congress that were insinuating, if not saying point blank, that they wanted to not only overturn the election, but wanted to impose martial law. So as a Republican, as you are, what do you make of this?
Well, I think you said it was 30 members, correct?
Correct. Over 30. Yeah.
Over 30.
Yeah.
But not more than 40. The only reason I'm bringing this up is there's 435 members of Congress. Mm-hmm. And so if there are 30 who were just a little wackadoo, hoping for all hope for some Hail Mary, there were some, if we can go back in time and remember where we were in January 2021, all I can say is there were some Republicans who believed some really crazy wackadoodle doodle things. I don't know why they believed these things. I don't know why they thought the Constitution just, flew out the window, didn't matter anymore. I have no idea. And I can't speak for people who obviously don't know the Constitution, don't know facts, don't know, basic democracy. And those 30 or so folks were wrong. There shouldn't have been martial law declared. I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know what a lot of people at that time were thinking, but it's ridiculous. I haven't read these text messages. This has not been on the top of my news feed. So when we weren't planning on talking about this today. So when we talked yesterday, I don't have a whole bunch to add, but
well, just on the basis of what I just told you, and even a few of the text messages that I just read, here's where I would say, I don't think this is about not knowing the Constitution for the most part. And I don't think this is about not being educated on what martial law is. I think these people know exactly what they were doing and what they were trying to do. And that is forget about our Constitution, throw it out the window, lie, cheat, break the law, and do whatever it is necessary so that Donald Trump can remain in power. I disagree. I think they absolutely knew what they were doing.
Well, and if they did know what they were doing, I guess all we can say is, well, it certainly wasn't very effective. And, you know, there have been coups over time. Remember in Russia, I think in around, I guess back then it was the USSR, maybe 1991, there was that coup where Yeltsin and his cronies tried to overtake Gorbachev. That coup was successful. Normally, coups are not very successful. In this case, that coup was not successful at all, was it? It was thwarted. It was stopped. These people were stopped. They have not been successful. They have not done anything. And I think you have to look at that as a good thing, correct?
It's a good thing that Donald Trump didn't remain in power and they weren't able to overthrow the outcome of the election. But it's not a good thing, the damage that these people have done to this country. And so many people that now don't have faith in our elections and still believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. They are conspiracy theories, they're lies, and it caused violence.
But there's a lot of people who believe conspiracy theories and crazy, stupid things.
But we've never had a January 6th. We've never had an insurrection like that before.
No, you're right. We haven't. And it's very unfortunate that it came to that. It's very unfortunate that what January 6th happened. January 6th, I think, will forever be a very dark day that didn't need to happen. And it's a bad day in our history. I agree with you 110%. I'm sorry that it happened. I'm sad that it happened. But I don't know why we keep rehashing it over and over and over
because
again.
People need to be held accountable. That's when we need to
understand. And aren't we holding them accountable?
No, Donald Trump hasn't been held to account, not once. And he still says he won the 2020 election. These Congress people that wanted martial law, and there's proof of that now with text messages, should be held to account. They should not be allowed to be in office if they want to overthrow the outcome of a free and fair elected election.
But you've never texted something that's ridiculous? Like you've never texted something that's like, I wish we could do something to stop that.
Well, number one, I'm not a politician. I'm not an elected official. So I don't understand that analogy. I'm not. Number two, I'm not texting people saying the earth is flat either. I text people truth. Now, if you want to talk about inappropriate text messages or maybe saying something mean to somebody, we all have done that, but that's not what we're talking about here.
I think as a politician, you need to be careful what you text regardless.
But we're not even talking about that, Michelle. We're not talking about an inappropriate text.
No, I'm not saying inappropriate text. I'm saying you shouldn't even be, in my opinion, if I was a politician, you shouldn't be texting back and forth with Mark Meadows, whoever, like, what could we do to initiate martial law? Like, I think you should have a little bit of more common sense. And maybe this isn't something you should be texting.
Well, imagine this.
Texting gets people in a lot of trouble. Here locally, Justin Jones is in a lot of trouble for text messages that he sent and then deleted. Like politicians should be smarter than that. Don't text things. They're not this protected speech that's, that you can say whatever the heck you want.
Well, that certainly goes to horrible judgment, but I'm glad you brought that up. We have over 30 members of Congress, by the way, all Republicans that wanted to overturn the 2020 election, text messages with Mark Meadows. Imagine all the people that are not part of that 30 that met with Mark Meadows privately and had these same discussions. That brings to the next conversation as well. Now, I want to play you some audio, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Okay. So we were talking about back then. And by the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of those people that was texting Mark Meadows saying she had organized, for the 6th. She said, I would like to meet with Rudy Giuliani. We didn't get to speak with him long. Also, anyone who can help. We are getting a lot of members on board, and we need to lay out the best case for each state. She was talking about throwing out the electorates and trying to overturn the outcome of the election. This is Marjorie Taylor Greene just the other day speaking at a fundraiser event, Michelle. This is a sitting member of Congress, and she's talking about January 6th. Listen to these words.
I come to Washington. I swear in on January 3rd, I get accused of giving insurrection tours, which I thought was hilarious because I couldn't even find the bathroom in the Capitol. True story. Then January 6th happens, and next thing you know, I organized the whole thing along with Steve Bannon here. And I want to tell you something, if Steve Bannon and I had organized that, we would have won. Not to mention, it would have been armed. Yeah. See, that's the whole joke, isn't it? They say that whole thing was planned, and I'm like, are you kidding me? A bunch of conservative Second Amendment supporters went in the Capitol without guns and they think that we organized that. I don't think so.
Wow. So, Michelle, we have a sitting member of Congress talking about January 6th. And in her trying to make the case that she didn't plan it or she wasn't a part of it, she said if she did plan an insurrection with Steve Bannon, she would have won. I don't know what winning means. Does that mean overturning the outcome of a free and fair election? I guess that's what she means. And then she says we would have been armed.
Yeah.
Now, in my personal opinion, when you make a statement like that, you are a national security threat. She is a sitting member of Congress. Are you comfortable with that? And what do you make of her comments that she made? This was just the other day.
Yeah, I mean, I just think I think she, like so many others, just make these hyperbolic comments that she gives to a room in order to get I didn't really hear that many cheers, but you heard
a few.
you heard cheers, and that's really placating to her base, right?
Boy, what a disgraceful base that is.
It's really, I think her whole shtick is being, the extremist gal who believes there's like Jewish space lasers and all these other things. And that, she and Steve Bannon obviously have these matching capes that they wear, and they can fly around and do certain things. I don't know, that they're superheroes or something. And that's this hyperbolic speech that they do. I don't actually believe that these people are as crazy as they pretend to be. I actually think a lot of it is an act. I truly, I mean, if they are really that crazy, wow. But I think a lot of it is an act. I really do. I can't believe people are that insane. Maybe that's a protection method that I use for myself to not believe that people are that crazy. I think it's all an act.
But even if that's true, and I'm not sure it is, but even if you're right, and let's just say what Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying is quote unquote an act, it is inciting violence. It is revving people up.
I certainly don't think it's appropriate.
Well, I think it's beyond inappropriate.
It's inappropriate. I don't think she should have said it. I don't think it was necessary. I don't know why she keeps bringing it up. I don't know why she seems to think it's such a badge of honor that if she was running it, it would have been. I don't know. I don't get her. I mean, I can't. You bring me on because I'm a Republican, and I like. Well,
I want to get your perspective.
I believe that I am a normal, common sense, Republican. I am the Republican in the state of Nevada.
Well, if you stand up next to Marjorie Taylor Greene, yes, I would agree with you 150%.
Right. I mean, I am the Republican that this state needs more of, because I'm that Republican that got Joe Lombardo elected. And I am that Republican. So I am not a Republican who can really have these in-depth conversations with you about what's going on with Marjorie Taylor Greene? Because honestly, I don't freaking know. I don't read Steve Bannon.
Michelle, there's a reason why I'm asking you these questions.
Yeah.
Because this is, even though you might disagree with them, this is your party.
But I don't consider it my party. That's a member of my party.
You're a Republican.
I'm a Republican, but she's not someone who I look to. She's not someone I consider a leader.
Understood. But the faces of your party, the big names of your party, the Jim Jordans, who's also in these text messages, many of the big names, the Matt Gaetz, the Jim Jordans, the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, the big names of the party that have the most support among Republicans are the ones that tried to set up a coup to try to overturn the outcome of an election. And you have people like Marjorie Taylor Greene still joking about it, saying, well, if it was me and Steve Bannon, we would have gone in there with guns. That's basically what she's saying.
I guess what I would need to know is I'd need to know the names of those 30 people who were like,
I gave you a few.
Yeah, but those aren't any people that I support, or they're not names that I think are big leaders in this party either. Because I think if you talk to most Republicans, no one is saying Marjorie Taylor Greene is a leader of this party. No, she's fringe.
Not a leader, but she's certainly a face of the party. And
no, she's a fringe of the party. The leaders of this party, whether you like them or not, are Mitch McConnell. They're Kevin McCarthy. They're Ted Cruz, who I know you don't like. They're Marco Rubio. They're the Rand Pauls. There's a lot of people who are the leaders of this party, but it's not Marjorie Taylor Greene.
And many of those people that you just named feel sorry for those that are behind bars now because of the January 6th insurrection. Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio, for example, who you just mentioned, feel pity for those that are behind bars, say they're being unfairly treated. So even some of those people that you mentioned, while they might have been a part of a coup, they don't want to talk about January 6th. They don't want accountability. They don't want to talk in front of the committee. They don't want to hear about January 6th. They're not watching any of that
Well,
stuff.
I think the people who have sympathy for those that are behind bars for January 6th, they're trying to make the correlation that there are people who aren't behind bars who've committed violent crimes who get let out by these rogue DAs. And you've got guys who just were in the Capitol and didn't do anything at all, and they're behind bars, because not everyone who's behind bars right now for January 6th did something that was indeed violent. At least that's
Right,
I
of
have
course.
not followed January 6th as closely as maybe you have. It's not high on my list of things that I'm terribly interested in. I'm not sure how many freak shows are behind bars.
Why is it, Michelle, that explain this to me, help me understand. You're not terribly interested in January 6th, which is an attempt to overthrow our democracy, basically, and overthrow a presidency. You're not interested in that, yet you're interested in Hunter Biden's laptop. Explain that to me.
No. I think you misunderstand. Hunter Biden's laptop, as far as the pictures and the coke snorting, not interested in that. What I'm interested in with the Hunter Biden laptop story is that the New York Post story was suppressed. And it was said to be Russian disinformation when it indeed wasn't. So from a freedom of press standpoint, that is very, very alarming what Twitter did. And as a journalist, so remember, I have worked for ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, Fox my entire life since I was 21 years old. And I have been on TV delivering the news my entire life. So I have a real problem when a news organization puts out a story and Twitter silences that story and says it's Russian disinformation. And here we know now it was not Russian disinformation. There really was a laptop. I don't care about the sex pictures. I don't care if Hunter Biden's a hot mess.
So what's in there that's so criminal then?
What I care about is that the suppression of the story.
But what's in the story?
The story is that there is information in there that is showing that Hunter Biden had these positions with Burisma and China.
We know that.
And that somehow it is believed that Joe Biden also was on the take with this. And if that is the case,
there's no evidence to prove that.
He's under FBI and under
not Joe Biden.
The laptop and the relation with Burisma and Joe Biden's relation, it has been under investigation since I believe 2019.
He's under investigation for tax fraud.
Okay, fine. I don't know. I don't have all the information, Brian.
But
I don't have all the information. All I know is that as journalists, which I am not an active journalist anymore, and I'm not actively investigating this, if journalists are investigating it, they shouldn't be squashed.
Okay, but I just want to clarify. Joe Biden's not under investigation for any
How
of that.
do you know?
It's public. What's under investigation? The FBI right now. Hunter Biden.
So you think all this information is totally public, and we know everything that's under investigation at all times? I don't believe that at all. I believe there are things.
Hunter Biden is under investigation.
I get it, but we don't know that the further relationship of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden and the relationships with Burisma and China. You don't know that it's not under more investigation.
You're upset. You're upset that Twitter suppressed some information about the Hunter Biden laptop.
No, I am upset that they suppressed the New York Post story.
And what was in that story that was so damning? That was criminal, because I'm sure it would have been released elsewhere by now.
It doesn't matter what the content of the story is. Twitter should not be suppressing freedom of the press. There's this thing called freedom of the press. And the press should be allowed to put stories out. When you've got a private entity like that, which in my opinion, Twitter has surpassed just being a private entity. It's called social media. It is a media entity. It should not be suppressing other media.
But that is what
I have a problem with. And I get that you don't get it. And I get that all liberal media and most people who have a more liberal bent don't agree with it because they are okay with conservatives being suppressed.
No, conservatives, first of all, conservatives are not suppressed. I disagree with that.
They 100% are suppressed.
Second of all, Twitter is a private entity and they should not be forced to put any story out that they don't want out there. It's a private company and they should be allowed to do what they want. If they don't want a story out there, they should be allowed to. I don't think that conservatives are all these victims out there. 99% of talk radio is conservative radio. So I don't know what you're talking about as far as conservatives being oppressed.
Conservative radio is not on Twitter. Conservative radio is not broadcasting on Twitter. Conservative radio is not broadcasting on Facebook. What we're talking about is when conservative content is on Twitter or on Facebook, it is often suppressed. It is often taken down or it is shadowed.
Well, yeah, because a lot of the conservative stuff that's out there right now are whack job conspiracy theories.
But
that's why.
The New York Post article was not a whack job conspiracy
theory.
Then
what was in there?
It was literally just saying that the laptop existed,
right,
and that there was information on it, and that Hunter Biden himself was under FBI investigation. That was all the information. Everyone has come out and said there was nothing wrong with the New York Post story, but right before the election, like 2 weeks before the election, Twitter suppressed it, acting as if it was Russian disinformation.
But he's not under FBI investigation. The FBI director in testimony said he's not under FBI investigation. He is he's been under investigation for tax fraud, and that investigation is ongoing.
The FBI has been investigating him since 2019.
But it's got nothing to do with the laptop, though.
It doesn't matter if it has anything to do with the laptop. If the New York Post was relieving that information, it's still accurate information. It's not like the New York Post story was fake. It's not like the New York Post story was inaccurate. It was an accurate story that they chose to suppress. And as a journalist, and as someone who's been involved in media, and as someone who believes in the First Amendment, you should be against any suppression of the press.
The First Amendment doesn't pertain to private business. I don't understand what you're talking about.
Freedom of the press is freedom of the press. So and right now, this is my point. Social media, Twitter Act.
Freedom of the press means that the press can cover any story they want.
Correct. But the majority of people so the times have changed. One of the reasons why I chose to leave TV news is that because people today no longer watch television news. The majority of people under the age of 40 get all of their news and all of their information from social media. They get their information from Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. That's where they get their news and information. It is more of a news outlet than television stations are. Television stations spend more time focused on putting information out on social media than they do what they put on air. So we cannot act like Twitter and Facebook are just, they're just private entity companies.
Well, but they are.
They are broadcasters that broadcast news medium over the air, and over the air has changed. It's no longer over radio. You and I both know that radio is about to die. I believe it is in like 2 or 3 years, cars won't even have AM and FM radios in the cars anymore. It will all be satellite radio, just like you don't have tape players anymore or CD players in cars. Times change, and over the air AM and FM radio is dying. We know that TV is dying.
So what does that have to do with a private business like Twitter, though?
Because
I don't
my
understand.
argument is that it's not really private business anymore. It is a media outlet.
But it is a private business.
But
even Elon Musk would say it's a private business.
It shouldn't, in my opinion, it shouldn't be considered as a private business, just as ABC, CBS, KLAS, where I used to work, and every station I used to work at is not a private business.
Every station.
Just like KSHP is a radio station.
But it's a private business.
It's a private business in that it decides whether you're on the air or whether I'm on the air or who they hire on the air. It still has to follow certain rules and regulations.
But just because it is
a media outlet.
Of course, businesses have to follow rules.
Twitter and Facebook are media outlets. It has social media in the name, and they should be functioning more as media outlets.
Here's why I'm confused.
Private businesses.
Here's why I'm confused, and I disagree with you. If you own a restaurant, there are health codes, right? There are certain ways to prepare food. There are rules. It's still a private business. They keep the profit and the money they make, but there are some standards on how you cook the food. When you own a radio,
so what are the standards for social media?
Hear me out. I'm getting there. When you mentioned radio, when you own a radio station, yes, there are FCC regulations you have to abide by, just like there's health codes with restaurants. But it's still a private business. The owner's making money, and it's a private business. When it comes to social media, they can cover news any way they want to. Now, there are certain standards. You can't incite violence. You can't put out hate speech. There are certain standards, just like on radio, on social media. But in the end, Elon Musk is the owner of Twitter. It is a business, and they are in the business like every other business is in making money.
Correct. And when I worked for CBS, KLAS, Nexstar owned that station. Nexstar is a privately owned company. It might be publicly traded.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we could not do news stories that only had a liberal slant to them because according to FCC regulations, it's called equal time. You have to have Republican side, Democrat side
That's
to
a political,
every single story. Okay. So what I'm saying is right now, there are actually no rules and regulations for the way social media is operating. Social media has created its own rules and regulations as to what it deems, what it will censor, what it won't censor. As private companies, they've come up with their own rules and regulations. They label this fake news. They label this as censored. They'll take this off. They'll take that. But there's actually nothing. There's nothing regulating it. And it's kind of like the wild, wild west.
Same thing with TV. Fox News can attack Democrats all day long. There's no regulation that says you have to attack Republicans too. It's the same thing with what you're talking about. I could start a social media company right now.
The difference is that on Fox, CNN, and MSNBC, while I believe they are all very biased, they have an FCC requirement to have both sides of the story. And they do. There's Republican they bring on Republicans and Democrats on all of those stations.
I think, okay, so I know what law you are talking about, and it pertains to TV and radio. And I think you're confusing it with covering a story. There's no rule that says you have to cover this side and that side. What it is if you interview someone who's running for office, yes, Republican or Democrat, then you have to give the opponent the same amount of time.
Equal
that is
time.
Understood. Yes, I agree. But that's very different than what you're saying about covering stories.
But even with covering stories in TV, and I've been in TV my whole life, covering stories and covering elections since George W. Bush in 2000, we always had to cover both sides. You never went.
Well, that's your boss's decision. And you know what? They have the right to make that decision.
Bosses them for every network and every station I've ever worked at. So it's not like some arbitrary rule that isn't followed in every TV news.
Then they have that right. But I'm just explaining to you what like if I opened up a social media platform right now, I could cover only stories that make Republicans look bad. I could put up stories that attack Republicans as long as you're not inciting violence. And I would not be breaking any regulation.
No, you wouldn't be. But here's the bigger point that I think you're missing is that right now, news is delivered on social media platforms and received by the masses on social media platforms more than any other entity that delivers news. So airwaves through radio, airwaves through TV. People get their news more from social media than any other entity.
Well, because individuals are doing that.
CBS, New York Post, New York Times, if any of them are suppressed from delivering news, that is canceling freedom of the press.
But they're not being stopped on their own platform to delivering news. We're talking about a separate entity.
On their own platform.
They are going on a separate entity, Twitter, to promote whatever they are doing. And Twitter, as the business owners, have a right to say, we don't want that person on for this reason. We don't want that. Now, you can't say, I don't want this person on because they're black or white.
Correct.
Obviously, you can't discriminate.
Here's the bigger problem. So everybody wants to be on Twitter, even though they say they don't. So Elon Musk owns Twitter now, and everyone has their little hissy fits and like, oh, I won't be on there anymore. It's so awful. Elon's the worst. Yet they're still tweeting because everybody needs to be where the power is and where the people are. So when Twitter was purposely silencing people, and when they were arbitrarily choosing to silence people, whether that's the New York Post or Donald Trump, and not silence people like the Ayatollah, who is a Holocaust denier, who's an anti-Semite, who has made terroristic threats on Twitter, and there's no repercussions for that man, but there's repercussions for the New York Post. So I find that to be an abomination.
Okay, so then if that did happen, then that is an inconsistency on Twitter's part. Yeah. If that did happen, but again, they have the right to do that. I mean, there's no law that says they can't do that. As far as going back to the Hunter Biden laptop, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about this after we take a break. To me, it's very simple, and I'll get you to respond to this after the break. There is nothing that we've heard about Hunter Biden's laptop that is a there. There is nothing, no evidence to support the fact that Joe Biden broke any laws. There is even no evidence to support the fact that Hunter Biden on that laptop broke any laws. He is currently under investigation for tax fraud. So as far as this laptop goes, there is no there, at least to this point. It's a nothing burger. There's nothing there. I could care less about it. Also, Hunter Biden is a private citizen. That's also extremely important. And with all the Republicans out there that hate Joe Biden, with all the idiots out there on doing radio that call them the Biden criminal family, which I find absurd if you're one of those people that still brown noses the Trump family and Donald Trump, there's nothing there. They wish there was something there like there was with the text messages that were just released from Mark Meadows. They wish something like that was there, but Republicans don't want to talk about Mark Meadows. They don't want to talk about these text messages. They don't want to talk about over the 30 members of Congress that were helping to set up a coup to overturn the outcome of the election. They want to know about Hunter Biden's laptop. Well, we believe this is in there. We believe that is in there. Well, it really doesn't matter what you believe, does it? Because there's no evidence to support it. Just like many people believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Michelle, I'm not specifically talking about you, but there are still a lot of Republicans out there that believe that Donald Trump won the 2020 election. There are still a lot of Republicans out there that believe Joe Biden committed all these crimes with Hunter Biden, and it's all on this laptop. I really don't care what these people say and what they believe. The fact of the matter is that there is nothing on this laptop to this point today that would prove any of that is true. It's still a conspiracy theory unless it's actually proven fact. As much as I can't stand Elon Musk, and we'll talk about this coming back, as much as I can't stand this man, I just think he's just a despicable a-hole. I can't stand him. Elon Musk owns Twitter. If he wants to suppress Democrats and he doesn't want to allow Democrats to speak their mind, he has the right to do that. Now, if he does do that, I will probably leave the platform because I think everybody should be allowed to speak their mind as long as it's not inciting violence or can hurt somebody. So we'll have to wait and see how this goes. We'll open up the phone calls now. If you want to give us a call about this, what are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with Michelle that conservatives are being suppressed of putting out information on Twitter for years? Do you agree with her, or do you agree with me that, this Hunter Biden thing is a nothing burger? Give us a call. 702-221-7283. And again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, now's the time to call. 702-221-7283. We'll take your calls coming up next. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP. All right.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Stallone's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. Located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Greenwood Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub when you can be a hero? Stallone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskowitz. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskowitz representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey, everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I'm going to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site x-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams, treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices, office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554. All right, welcome back to this Pushing the Limits on a Tuesday. So glad you could join us. We have Michelle Moore in the building. I love getting you this. I always love having Michelle in the studio. And we're taking your phone calls at 702-221-7283. We were just talking about Elon Musk, Michelle believes that conservatives are censored, and I was trying to explain the fact that, listen, it's a private business; they can pretty much do what they want. And we're taking your calls again, 221-7283. Let's get right to it. Let's start off with Albert. Albert is first up on Pushing the Limits. Hello, Albert.
Hey, how you doing? This is Albert. Somewhat of a code name, but listen, I'm glad you got two people, two sides of the story now on your show, Brian. And I'm Republican. Donald Trump's not my Cheeto god. I don't even know if I'm going to vote for him. But I want to tell you, your co-host, the Republican, asked. She goes, I don't know why we get some of these weirdos like Major Taylor Greene and all of these bozos that run. And I'm going to have the answer because I talked to being involved in politics in this last cycle. I talked to some political consultants, and they say one of our strategies or our major strategies to get Republicans out is just to make them angry, not necessarily.
So you think that's a good thing? Get people angry?
I think that's a terrible thing.
Okay,
and let me tell you something about the Republican Party. I'm a Republican, okay, but I believe in family, God, job security, freedom, capitalism. I don't believe that I don't believe our message should be that we love guns, we hate women, and we hate minorities.
Well, I agree with you.
That's why the Republicans can't win.
Well, I agree with you. I agree with everything you just said. I want to ask you a question. What talk shows do you listen to? I'm just curious. I want to pick your brain a little bit.
Well, I used to listen to you, and then when you were with your other show on another station, and then you got this new show, and you were kind of a little biased, so I stopped.
How am I biased? Well, tell me. Hold on a second.
No.
Let's stop.
But now, you didn't have the co-host. You were getting
Al, do you realize that I have more Republicans on this show than Democrats? Do you know that? Do you understand?
That's a possibility.
I have Roger Stone. I have Roger Stone coming up at the top of the hour. Can you name me one talk show in Las Vegas that has both sides? Give me one, sir. One radio show that you think interviews that interviews a bunch of Democrats and that gives both sides. Just give me one off the top of your brain.
Okay, I'm going to tell you one, and I'm going to tell you one because
please
that I've complained that you don't target the Hispanic community.
What are you talking?
There's a radio
what do you
show.
mean? What do you mean?
It's called.
What do you mean I don't target? First of all, I don't target anybody. What do you mean?
No. I'm not saying that you don't have enough Latino voices or people talking about Latino issues.
What do you mean? What do you mean Latino issues? I speak about all sorts of issues. I don't understand.
Okay, well, I like to call and talk about the Latino vote and the Latino vote moving into the Republican Party. How the Republicans are targeting the Latino vote. About
why are there so union. Since you're Republican, let's talk about that. Why are so few Republicans Latinos? Why are there so few Republicans that are minorities? I talk about minority issues on this show all the time, and quite frankly, that is absurd.
I think I'm going to tell you one of the reasons why, and I just said it, because a lot of Republicans got to start focusing more on values that Latinos believe in: family, God, job security, freedom, capitalism.
Well, I have values.
No. But I'm answering your question, and I agree with you, and I'm telling you why.
Okay.
I'm telling you why Republicans there's not enough minorities. First of all, Ronald Reagan gave Latinos Latino Heritage Month. He understands that we have conservative values.
Okay, let's go back to my question, though. Al, I agree with you.
We got idiots like Margaret Taylor Greene.
Yes, I agree.
And Babbitt and
Michelle Fiore and Jim Marchant and Adam Laxalt.
Michelle, I don't want to. But we got people going over there. We love
Wait
guns.
a second. Hold on a second.
We hate minorities.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
You are a Republican here, and you're defending Michelle Fiore, who just slut-shamed Amy Tarkanian. And as a man, you're talking about moral values, yet you can't.
I totally understand, but you know what? I can't.
Then how can you not condemn?
I didn't agree. Hey, you know what? Everybody makes a mistake.
Please. She puts underwear on her face during COVID. What do you mean everybody makes a mistake?
She was way off on that. She was way off.
How could you support a woman like that?
Just like Trump was way off on a lot.
You ever heard a Democrat make a statement like that in Las Vegas? You ever hear a Democrat slut shame somebody on stage?
Not in Vegas.
Yeah,
thank
you.
But I've heard some stuff but I want to just focus on my message to the Republican Party. And if you have a lot of listeners, you know what? We got to stop saying we love guns. We hate women. That's why nobody wants.
Listen, I agree. You said that, and I agree with you, Al, wholeheartedly. Answer my question, and then I got to go to the next call.
Okay,
give me a show. Give me a show here that a radio show that takes both sides of an issue. I do it every day.
Well, yeah, you're doing it. But you kind of don't. I kind of feel like I appreciate that you let me get my whole message out today.
All right, well, answer my question, though, Al.
I couldn't.
Please, with all due respect, give me a show that takes both sides. That is willing to.
I would say the only one that I know is is La Voz Nevada, which is on at 8 to 8:30 to 10. I don't know. That's the only one that I know.
And I'll take
honestly.
I'll take you for your word on that. I've never heard that show, but I was speaking of people like Alan Stock, Kevin Wall, Steve Sanchez.
Right.
I understand, Al, what you're saying.
No, I hear you. I know, you're right. You're totally right.
Yeah.
I got you on that.
I like Michelle in studio because I love a different point of view, as long as people are reasonable. Yes, I believe Michelle, for the most part, is reasonable.
That's why I called in today. When you started the show, you didn't have her on. You started the show with just
Al, I appreciate your call, and I do care about the Latino community. I care about all people of all shapes and sizes, all colors of the crayon box, so to speak. I always have, and I always will, and I appreciate your phone call.
Hopefully one day, if you ever wanted me to discuss that with you,
fair enough,
some issues, I would love to be on your show and be
all right.
talk about.
Probably a good thing if you don't disparage me on social media if you want that invitation.
No, I will not go.
Okay, well that's just a tip. Okay, thank you, Al.
All right,
all right. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Somewhat of a reasonable call. Let's go to John. I know John's a big fan of Michelle. Hi, John.
John hates me. John's gonna say something mean.
Go ahead, John. Johnny boy, are you there? All right. Let's put him on hold because John is not ready to go. He's not rock and rolling and ready to go. Let's go to Carl. Carl, what's going on, man? Carl, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl. Or is this John? Go ahead, John.
Brian, this is John.
Okay, go ahead, John.
Hey, Michelle, before I get into Twitter, I just wanted to ask you a question that Brian asked Chris yesterday. Who's your favorite porn star, male or female?
Can you ask that one more time? Sorry.
He wants to know who your favorite porn star is. It's a very random question. I don't know.
I don't have a porn star.
I thought you were going to say Stormy Daniels.
I don't know. No.
She doesn't have one. Her husband. Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Not a good question for me, but
no, not a good question for a nice Christian lady. Go ahead, John.
Lighten up, Michelle. We're all human. Hey, look, you would have some credibility, Michelle, but you have zero. You have none. You have absolutely devoid of credibility.
All right, hold on, John. Let's be fair. Say why. Why do you feel that way?
When you're crying on and on about Twitter, but every single night Fox spews nothing but crap. They totally censor all of the material that gets broadcast on that network, and the airwaves are just littered with Republican nut jobs that do nothing. There is no platform. There is no Hey, Al, you still listening, buddy? There is no Republican platform. You have no agenda. The only thing you have is to foment fear and hate and try to own the Democrats. And like I said, this Twitter story, and maybe Hunter's a bad guy. Who cares? You just harp on it. You go on and on and on. But you have no credibility because you never, ever point out.
Let's let Michelle respond. Go ahead, John. Go ahead, Michelle.
Let me just stop you for a minute. So at the end of the day, I've been in television news for 20 years and have 8 Emmys and 2 RTNDA Edward Murrow Awards, and you don't. So I do have credibility, number one. Number two, we'll start with that. So I have worked in news. Now, you're right. After 3 p.m. here in the Central on the Pacific time zone, Fox News does go into completely editorial content. But from about 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., Fox News does do news programming, except for when Harris Faulkner, who I cannot stand, is on the air, which is from 9 a.m. till about 11 a.m. So they are very clear when they have editorial shows and when they have news shows. And there is a very, very, very distinct difference. And just so you know, CBS News
so what you're saying,
also,
let me
like more than John, you got to wait and let me finish, and then I'll let you blast me again because I am letting the folks at TikTok hear what you're saying as well. So I can't hear you because the headphones are not on my ears.
Give Michelle a little more time, John, and then we will give you a chance to respond. Go ahead,
you
Michelle.
also need to know that the New York Post and CBS has confirmed that some of the documents that were on the Hunter Biden laptop describe things like then Vice President Joe Biden attending dinners in which his son was there as well, involving Burisma and certain payouts that happened, which would have indicated some sort of, pay to play, quid pro quo. So this has been confirmed not just by a conservative news outlet, not just by the New York Post, but also by a liberal news outlet, one I used to work for, CBS News. I am also a former congressional candidate who has suffered from the silencing on platforms like TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. So I do know what I'm talking about. It's okay for us to disagree, John. I'm fine with disagreeing, but you can't discredit me because my resume is long.
John,
Okay,
go ahead.
Can I talk now?
Yes, go ahead.
I can absolutely discredit you, and I think you're totally full of crap. What you did was parse the Fox time slots, and Fox is good from 9 to 3, but after 3 it doesn't count. It doesn't matter. It's all part of the same network. They do nothing but foment fear and hate in Democrats. They're the biggest part of the problem that's wrong with this country, and I've never once heard you speak out against them.
You know what?
Number
It's
2.
always great when a man's comeback is, but you're full of crap. That's usually, the sign of an excellent comeback.
All right.
Okay, give me an example. Michelle, when you've called out the number one clown over at Fox, Tucker Carlson. Give me one example when you've done that, please, right now.
Okay, I am actually not a big fan of Tucker Carlson. And one thing that Tucker Carlson did that I was very much against is who is the pimp? What was the pimp's name? The pimp who ran here for office. He ran the pimp house and he ran for assembly. What was that dude's name? The pimp Hoff. Dennis
how do
Hoff.
I not know that? He's been on my show before. Yeah, Dennis Hoff. Yeah.
Hoff. So Tucker Carlson was this huge supporter of Dennis Hoff and even did fundraisers and stuff for Dennis Hoff out here. And I was disgusted and appalled because I know I'm probably not going to win any fans here with all these men in the room, but I was really against what Dennis Hoff did.
I understand.
Tucker Carlson was disgusting for that. Tucker Carlson also really did a disgusting report on January 6th.
4 years ago?
All right, one at a time.
George W. Bush had done as to leading up to January 6th with all this globalism nonsense. I am not a big fan of Tucker Carlson at all.
Understood.
You're never going to find some great thing where I've gone and defended him. So see, this is John, the point. Never on this show have I done something where I've done this, outlandish defense of Tucker Carlson and probably never will I ever.
Okay. My point is this, Michelle. Your party, the Republican Party, spews tons of hate on a daily basis. They edit the content. They limit the content. They create, they fabricate, they spread lies and bull crap every single day. And I've never once heard you call them out on this show.
John,
and you're stuck on Twitter like a pit bull on a bone. And it's just the balance. There's no balance there. There's no credibility because you haven't done it in the past.
I get your point, John.
Fox
and I appreciate your call, John. Thank you for calling in. Here's the way I would perceive what John is saying. While you are calling out Michelle, this is the way I perceive what he's saying. While I understand that you're not a Tucker Carlson fan, you're not a Donald Trump fan, you're not a Marjorie Taylor Greene fan, I understand that. Okay, I've known you long enough to know you're not, and I know you're telling the truth. You're very upset about this suppression, allegedly, with Republicans and conservatives with Twitter. What I think people like John want to hear you talk about with that same character and emotion is Donald Trump going after the Constitution, Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson and Laura Ingraham spreading lies and hate. And he's right, by the way, on Fox News every night. I know there are far lefties on MSNBC. I don't like Rachel Maddow, but I don't think she's spreading hate every night like the way some of these Fox News hosts are. When Joe, I'll give you an example. When Joe Biden, and we talked about this, when Joe Biden left a voicemail for his son, Hunter, that is a loving father who knows his son has problems. I love you, man. I care about you. I want to help you. And Sean Hannity plays that as if it's some sort of bad thing. We all need to call that out. And I think what John is saying is, all right, you think conservatives are being oppressed on Twitter? Fine. We can disagree, but fine. You have a lot of emotion when it comes to that. We want that same emotion when it comes to hatred on the right. And, I think that's what he was trying to say.
And you know what frustrates me? Just basically with John, not with you.
Does that make sense, though, what I said?
No, it does. And what frustrates me with John is this, and it really is directed only to John, who I'm sure is a lovely individual, is that John only hears what he wants to hear and doesn't listen to anything, because I have spoken out against Michelle Fiore. I have condemned the way people treated Paul Pelosi when that attack happened. I agreed with you that the phone call, that the voicemail voicemail of Joe Biden that it touched the heart.
Yeah.
I have done and said those things,
Mhm.
but see, it's never enough. And see, that is my complaint, is because there is some Democrats have such vile hatred towards anyone that is a Republican that they just attack, and they never hear whenever I say things that they do agree with. And then whenever I say something they don't, they just lump me in once again. And they're just like, see, you're just a Republican and I hate you.
Yeah.
See, I can't ever win. I can win with you because you actually listen to me. You don't always agree with me, but we don't fight like that because
Sometimes.
I mean, we have fought before. I'm not going to
Right.
lie. We've had some fights. We've had some blows. But at the end of the day, there's that mutual respect there because you have listened to me enough. And it's
Of course I do.
frustrating. I think most conservatives feel this way because I feel like whenever we do like throw a bone, I guess, if you will, it's never good enough for someone like John. And that is immensely frustrating. And to constantly, as a woman, I will also say, to constantly discredit me is just very, very frustrating because you don't have to like me. But I'll be damned if I'm going to, can I say that? Sorry, Mark.
You can say damn, yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Here's the difference, Michelle.
If I let you discredit me, because I have had quite a career and I have done amazing things that a lot of women haven't done.
Michelle, if you were sitting in that chair right now and you said you still support Donald Trump, then I would lose a lot of respect. I'll put it that way. If you were sitting in that chair and you didn't call out Marjorie Taylor Greene, or you thought Tucker Carlson was this great guy, or that, so on and so forth, you get the point. Then I think that is a loss of a lot of credibility. Unfortunately, not you, but there are still a lot of Republicans out there that are unwilling to call out that. 702-221-7283 is the number to call. Again, that number, if you want to be a part of the conversation, is 702-221-7283. Let's go to Carl. I believe we have Carl on the line. Hello, Carl.
Yeah, hi, Michelle, Brian. How you guys doing?
Good.
Okay, I hope.
Good.
Yeah, I'm glad you finally got around to the intelligent calling phase. I'm kidding. The others were semi-intelligent. I'll be intelligent. Listen, Michelle, you said something about some of these stations, the more liberal type stations. Not broadcasting, things that they should cover up any conservative ideas. Well, look, Marjorie Taylor Greene just made a speech. I don't know if you mentioned it, to some Republican women or people, I forgot who they were, saying that, well, if we had only, when we went into the Capitol, if we'd only been armed, we could have taken over the government, basically. We could have taken over this country as an armed rebellion. And not one conservative station I've heard any of the conservatives mention anything about it. And that was a call to overthrow this government, completely overthrow the government by armed intervention.
Michelle, do you want to comment on that?
We did talk about that at the beginning of the show, and I will agree with you. I haven't watched a ton of Fox News today. I'm going to be completely honest about that. But the little that I have watched, I did not see that story. Yeah. And when I came in today, Brian and I usually do a quick little phone call before I come on, like, oh, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this. He said he wanted to talk about the Marjorie Taylor Greene comments and the Mark Meadows tweets. And I was like, okay, I'm not prepared for that. I didn't know anything about this. We didn't talk about this. And it wasn't on my radar. So I will concede to you there that I feel like January 6th and anything revolving that is probably covered far less on Fox News than it is on CNN or MSNBC. I will give you that. And I will also admit that as a Republican, I am far less interested in January 6th than probably Democrats are. And Carl, I do feel like that is a fair assessment. And I would actually agree with it. Like I am not as interested in it. That is very much true. So I don't think your assessment is wrong there at all.
Yeah, like a lot of problems are there. Just so many of these extreme right-wing, I hate to say it, mentally ill people, and they are mentally ill. Marjorie Taylor Greene's and her ilk are completely, when I have a background in, I can tell you they are mentally ill.
Well, I agree, Carl, 100%. There's no question.
Nobody on any of the extreme right-wing announcer or shows or anything ever says one thing about it. She actually broke the law.
And I want to, I agree. And by the way, Carl, always good to hear from you. And I appreciate your call. I want to add something here real quick to what Carl just said. So we had Al on a few callers ago, and I said, can you name me one show in Vegas that even attempts to get both sides of an issue? And the only show he can name me is some 30-minute show. I don't know. Is it a weekly show? I don't know what show he called. I don't know.
I thought he was talking about Lavaz, but I think he was talking about
Okay.
Latins. Oh, what's it called? I'm going to screw up the name. But there is this group that is run by a Latin group that brings in Republicans and Democrats
So if
together.
they do that, I give them all the credit in the world. I just haven't heard of it. All due respect to them, I haven't heard of it. My
Everything
point,
is leaving my brain right now, and I feel like an idiot.
No, you're not. But Michelle, the point I was trying to make is 99% of talk radio is Republican echo chamber radio.
Hispanics in politics is what it's called. It's
fine, and all the power to them.
Brain.
If they do that, I applaud them. But again, the point I'm making is 99% of talk radio is Republican echo chamber radio. Sean Hannity, Mark Levin. We know what Rush Limbaugh did for years, and all the, all this, and in this town, Kevin Wall, Wayne Allen Kook, Alan Stock. You think they're willing to listen to Democrats and interview Democrats? It's a joke.
Well, it's because echo chamber radio and echo chamber television, I think, is what people enjoy now.
That's sad. That's so sad.
The days of Crossfire, the days of Hannity and Combs,
those were good shows.
The days of that kind of like argumentative
That's when
TV.
Tucker was normal, and that is when I could deal with Sean Hannity because Alan Combs was willing to. That was a good show.
It was a good show,
and I watched that show.
I liked it too, and those days I think are definitely over. People don't respond to that type of news anymore. They want to just hear echo chamber news, and that's sad.
Well, I take offense when somebody says that I'm not talking about these issues. People can say what they want about me, but I am always willing to talk about any issue with anybody. Anything I'm willing to put on the table and talk about. And if there is a leader in this city or anybody that wants to come in and talk about a controversial issue, I will always tackle that issue. I'm not afraid of talking about anything, for Christ's sake. So for anybody to call in and say, well, you're afraid or you don't want to talk about this issue, nonsense. I talk about everything.
I think it is for many people in the political spectrum. It is scary to have these types of conversations.
Yeah.
Simply because at the end of the day, if you're a Republican, one of the reasons that it's always scary for me to do your show is that Republicans attack me nonstop, that I'm not doing enough to convert you. I even had someone recently say that I haven't done enough to even let you know about to witness.
Convert me to what? Republican?
Even to let you know more about Jesus Christ and things or to fight and to do things.
Well, I'll convert them to psychiatric homes.
Just hold on. And just hold on. And if I was doing if I was having a fairly conservative only show and I brought you on,
right,
I'm sure there would be or a liberal on, let's put it that way. I'm sure they would be very much attacked for coming on the show. Like, why would you do that anyway? I
wouldn't tolerate that because those people would be idiots.
When I was doing the State of the State, only one Democrat agreed to do my show, Steve Yeager. No one else would do the show.
Well, let me
because it was frowned upon. Like, you don't go and do.
Those people are idiots, and that's why Hillary Clinton lost, and that's why Republicans lose because they don't go on CNN. That's why Democrats lose because they didn't go on Fox News. And for the people out there that are saying that you should somehow convert me. First of all, I'm laughing at that idiotic statement, number one. And number two, nobody's converting me. I do what I want to do. Nobody's going to convince me. And that goes for any religion. Okay. Could be Judaism. Guess what? I don't go to synagogue either because I don't like Judaism either. I don't like Christianity. I don't like any religion for the most part.
And that's why I don't force my religion on you ever. And I don't try to, I don't
Not just me. I just feel like for anybody, I appreciate that.
Conversation.
Sure.
We do that more in private than we do on air.
I just think when somebody of a certain religion tries to convert somebody else, I think that is awful.
I don't think it's awful. But I think you have to have relationship there. And certainly it's not something you're going to do on live radio.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe we can convert Christian Wynn to liking female porn stars because he said yesterday he only likes male porn stars. I'm just kidding. That was a horrible joke. It's a cheap shot at Chris Wynn. That's true, by the way. We did. Mark can verify. That's true. We had that conversation yesterday. Anyway, she's Michelle.
My God.
Yeah, exactly.
What happened yesterday?
Yeah, exactly. It was funny. She's Michelle Mortensen. I'm Brian. Very controversial guest coming up next. I'm really looking forward to talking to him because I have a lot of questions for Roger Stone. By the way, he was pardoned by Donald Trump. Roger Stone, the political operative, will be joining us next. Take a quick break. Be back right after this with Roger. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
At your convenience, I also need you to update the chart you did of current litigations with the understanding that we would use the spreadsheet in fundraising.
The average person find a great attorney out there. So much sophistication. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Justice. He was Las Vegas' top DUI prosecutor, prosecuting the most high-profile DUI cases in our county. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Just Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges and his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program are those of the program's participants and do not necessarily reflect those of station staff, management, and advertisers.
All right, welcome back to Pushing the Limits, hour number 2. So glad that you can join us. We were just talking about Elon Musk and Twitter and Hunter Biden, a number of issues in hour number 1. Michelle Mortensen joining me as well. And the man on the line with us right now, well, he's been a political operative for decades and decades and decades. Certainly, he is a household name, and very happy to have Roger Stone joining us right now on the line. Roger, thank you so much for being here. It's been a while since we spoke. How are you?
Great to be back with you. Thank you very much.
So, Roger, let me ask you this to start. You were just allowed to be put back on Twitter. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. Have you spoken to Elon Musk? Were you surprised that your Twitter account was reinstated? Because obviously you have a lot of followers. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't know Elon Musk. I have never met or spoken to the man. I do obviously now admire him very much. All I did was to fill out the appropriate forms required by the management at Twitter, make my case. And to my surprise, after prayer, I was reinstated to my old account. I didn't lobby anyone. I didn't reach out to anyone. I simply filled out the forms. You can actually go to my Substack. There's no secret here. Of course, there's no guarantee. I don't know anyone in Twitter management, but you can't get reinstated unless you apply properly for reinstatement. Those who have been banned or suspended need to follow those steps.
Do you believe that Donald Trump's Twitter account should be reinstated? And do you also believe that there is a line that you should never cross? I would imagine you would agree with me. You shouldn't be allowed to incite violence. You shouldn't be allowed to put out medical misinformation, right, Roger? You would agree with that?
I certainly don't think you should promote, child pornography or child sex trafficking or advocate violence. I believe President Trump has been reinstated.
Right, he has.
He doesn't seem to be inclined to go back to that platform. I don't know if it's because he has some contractual obligation with Truth Social, his own social media site. I don't know why he chooses not to use the new site, but yes, I'm a free speech absolutist. Obviously, there are limits. You just cited a bunch of them, but I'm not in favor of censoring the speech of anyone, left, right, or center. Or the great vast majority of people who aren't political at all. I think everybody should have the right to speech.
All right, let's move on to Brittany Griner now. What was your original reaction when you heard about the trade, Brittany Griner, for this arms dealer? What are your thoughts?
Well, several months ago, after she was arrested, because I guess she had a vape pen in Russia, I felt that she should be released simply because she was a U.S. citizen and it's a non-violent crime, probably not very smart, but still a non-violent crime. And the torrent of abuse that I took just for saying that really surprised me. I'm glad she's home. I don't agree with her view. She doesn't seem to respect or like her country much. But again, she has the right to say whatever she likes about the United States. She has the right to not to kneel or not to respect the Pledge of Allegiance or the flag. That's her right. I don't agree with it, but it's her right. I do think it is kind of counterproductive in the sense that in return for Brittany Griner, we gave back to the Russians the single largest and I think most dangerous arms dealer in the country. And based on what I've read, an arms dealer who is absolutely crucial in terms of supplying weapons to Vladimir Putin's ongoing war effort in Ukraine. It's also, I think, a tragedy that we left a Marine colonel who's still in custody. I would have hoped that the administration could have gotten both Griner and the colonel back if this was going to be the trade. But it seems to me that there's a certain contradiction of sending $100 billion to Ukraine to wage war, at the same time unleashing an individual who I've read is crucial to rearming Vladimir Putin in that conflict.
I'm not happy with the trade either, even though I'm happy that Brittany Griner is home. I guess my question to you would be this, and I think it leads into athletes taking a knee, which is, why is it that you think it's disrespect for the country if somebody peacefully protests and wants equality? Listen, I'm not a big Brittany Griner fan per se, but I don't think Brittany Griner hates the country. I hear that from a lot of conservatives. She didn't want to stand during the national anthem. People, as you know, Roger, people died for this country so that they would have the freedom to stand or not stand. And I don't think she's taking a knee, and she's talked about this, because she hates the country. Many of these athletes are taking a knee because they're raising awareness for equality. Do you disagree with that? And why do you think she hates the country?
I think it is disrespectful to the country. I just don't agree with her view. But like you, I defend her right to hold that view. And I'm glad that she's home. Not everybody on the right feels that way, but I feel that way.
Understood. Okay, let's talk about being disrespectful to the country. I know you're a Donald Trump loyalist. He pardoned you, and I totally understand that. With that being said, when he talks about the Constitution and he talks about abolishing parts to the Constitution, wouldn't you call that, as you said, disrespectful to the country? And he still says he won the 2020 election. He seems to go after any and every single person that disagrees with him. He wants to abolish parts of the Constitution. I'm sure you would agree with me, right? That's also disrespectful to the country, isn't it?
Actually, Abraham Lincoln suspended portions of the Constitution. I don't particularly agree. Again, I'm not responsible for everything the president says. I know. Often disagree with him. I do think that there's substantial evidence of irregularities and anomalies, and in some cases outright fraud in the 2020 election. On the other hand, I don't think that election is going to be rerun. I don't think it is going to be invalidated. I'm more interested in the security and the integrity and the honesty and the transparency of elections going forward. And I don't think relitigating the 2020 election is productive at this point.
I agree with you. Let me ask you another question. You know Donald Trump pretty well. Before the 2016 election, he was saying that there's fraud and elections are rigged. Then he wins and he defeats Hillary Clinton. And for the next 3 years, I didn't hear him or any Republicans talking about election integrity because Donald Trump won. Why do you think that is? And then all of a sudden he loses in 2020. And now all of a sudden the election was fraudulent and he won it in a landslide. We didn't hear that after 2016. We heard it before the election. Why is that?
Well, ironically, in her requests for recounts in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, Hillary Clinton and her lawyers made the case that there was fraud and irregularity in those elections. That's politics. 32 House Democrats, I think, co-signed a letter questioning the results of that election. They're not called election deniers. It is also true that Hillary Clinton and her campaign manager, John Podesta, wanted to make a presentation to the Electoral College regarding non-existent Russian collusion and wanted to delay the certification of Trump's election. So I think we have a double standard here. Yes, I agree with that.
Even though Hillary Clinton conceded the following morning, am I incorrect on that? Didn't she concede?
I don't think she definitely filed requests for recounts in 3 states. And in 2 of them, they actually showed that Trump won by a slightly larger margin than it appeared that he had the night before.
All right. Let me ask you this question then. Why is it in 2016 we didn't have an insurrection led by Democrats?
Since I don't agree with what happened in the Capitol and that any claim that I knew in advance about, was involved in, or condoned anything illegal that happened on that day at that place, or on any other day in any other place, is categorically false. I don't defend that. And I think those who did violate the law should be given due process.
Yes, and I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you saying that, and I believe you're being honest with me.
And I might all point out I wasn't there. I wasn't on the ellipse. I didn't march to the Capitol. I did
Understood.
not go to.
I know you didn't, but as you know, a lot of people did. I want to get your reaction to this, Roger, and if you're just joining us, you're speaking with Roger Stone. As you know, Mark Meadows' text messages have been, some of them, over 2,000 text messages have been released over the past 24 hours. Over 30 members of Congress, all Republicans, some asking if Trump would impose martial law. What do you make of those people in Congress? Do you think they should be kicked out of office? And do you find this very serious, as I do?
I have not read that or read reports about it. I would point out to you that testimony before the January 6th committee that indicated that I was in contact with Mark Meadows is categorically false. I've never had any communications with Mark Meadows. I did meet him years ago when he was a congressman in a green room at Fox. Beyond that, I've never met the man other than that one occasion. I've never had any communications with him. And you're asking me to comment on something that I have not read.
Okay, understood. I want to talk about this documentary, and you've talked about this a little bit before, where you've said that video was edited, and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm misquoting you, you tell me, but you said, F the voting, let's get right to the violence. Did you say that, and what did you mean by that?
There are two different versions of this video. How odd. And they both have different visuals, in neither one of which I can be seen saying that. No, I don't think I said that. It's very easy to deep fake a video. The other video showed by the January 6th committee said, I am quoted accurately as saying that on election night, if it is up in the air, if it is disputed, then Trump should declare victory. That is precisely the advice that James A. Baker III gave to George W. Bush in 1988. Is exactly what George W. Bush did. James Baker was heralded as a political genius for that. That is not. I did not say if Trump lost, he should declare victory anyway. That's not what I said.
Understood. Would you agree with me today in 2022? Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Are you willing to admit that now, where we've seen no evidence of widespread voter fraud? You know that. I'm not saying fraud.
I don't disagree with your assertion that we have not seen widespread fraud and anomalies in that election. But I don't think the election is going to be redone. And I don't think that the courts actually never heard most of these cases. I'm not an attorney. I don't know that they were well crafted, but the courts declined to hear them. And this at this point it's a closed issue. I'm more concerned about the integrity and transparency and honesty of elections going forward.
I don't think any reasonable person would disagree with you on that. But why is it that Donald Trump today, sir, is still saying he won the 2020 election in a landslide? Not only, in my opinion, is he lying, but isn't that bad for the country and bad for democracy?
You should actually, free speech is never bad for democracy, but you should invite him on your show and ask him what he says.
I would love to do that, Roger. Trust me, I would love to do that. All right, so let's talk about 2024. You've been in this game for a very long time, Roger Stone. Do you think Donald Trump announcing that he is running for the presidency in 2024 is good for the Republican Party? If no, who would you like to see run for office in 2024? And who do you think is going to run on the left?
I think it is extraordinarily difficult to sustain any presidential campaign or any political campaign for 2 years. I think announcing early really puts an enormous burden on the president. We've had, I think, 4 presidents who attempted to make a comeback after serving, being defeated, and trying to come back. Martin Van Buren, Herbert Hoover, Grover Cleveland, and there was one other. Only Cleveland was actually successful, a New Yorker. I still believe that Donald Trump has a strong and intense hold on somewhere around 40 to 45% of grassroots Republican primary voters. I think he will be a formidable candidate for the nomination. He seems determined to run. I will support him because of our history and our personal relation. I don't think this is an easy race by any means. We don't also know whether you have a split field of many candidates, whether you have one challenger. That's not clear. I think a larger field would be advantageous to him. It is absolutely clear that Governor DeSantis, the governor of my home state, is emerging as at least a principal rival. And there's a certain irony there, since DeSantis owes his own political rise to a tweeted endorsement by Donald Trump. But 2 years is an eternity in politics. Will Joe Biden be in any shape, both physically and politically, to run for re-election? 2 years is a long time. He has stated his intention to run. I take him at his word. I think he's planning to run. But again, it's 2 long years from now.
Right.
I also think that with the Republicans not winning control of the Senate and having narrow control in the House, it is unlikely that you're going to have a reversal of the country's current economic problems. And therefore, it is probable that we will have a continuation of the current pattern of inflation and high gas prices and food shortages. That creates a political dynamic. But again, it's 2 years away from now. And nobody can accurately know what is going to happen.
Fair enough. Again, if you're just joining us, Roger Stone, a few more questions for you, Roger, and we do appreciate your time. You know, we hear so much from conservatives and people on the right. They want to hear about Hunter Biden's laptop. It's such a huge issue to Republicans, when I haven't seen anything yet that would prove the fact that Hunter Biden, or Joe Biden for that matter, broke any laws. I know he's under investigation for tax fraud, and that's a separate entity. Why is it Republicans aren't talking more about gas prices, like you mentioned, or inflation, the economy?
I have to assume you haven't read the contents of the laptop, as I've read, as reported in the New York Post. I think terrific piece in the UK Daily Mail, who made a case that there were over 400 individual crimes there, at a minimum, representing the interests of Russia, Ukraine, Romania, and China, without registering a Foreign Agents Registration Act. Well, that's what Paul Manafort was prosecuted for. So I just respectfully disagree with your interpretation. It hasn't gotten that much mainstream media coverage for some reason. When you say the voters don't care about it, or the public hasn't, I guess what you said was there's not much awareness or concern about it beyond Republicans. I think that's because it hasn't gotten much exposure.
Is there any evidence to prove the fact that Joe Biden committed any crimes? Because Hunter Biden is a private citizen, as you know. Is there any evidence that you've seen?
There's evidence that money went from Joe to Hunter contained there. There is evidence that he met with a number of Hunter's clients. Yeah, this is all online. You can read all of it.
So help me with this. As you know, Trump's family, Ivanka Trump, Jared Kushner, who I know you're not extremely fond of, last I checked, they made a lot of money when Donald Trump was in office. And as far as I know, there are no laws put in place right now that say if you're the son of a president or a family member and you take advantage of who your father is and you make money. Now, I wish there were laws put on, and I think that's a very fair conversation to have. Trump's family members made money. We know how Hunter Biden got that job, because of his dad. I think any reasonable person would agree with that. But if there are no laws on the books that say you can't take advantage maybe of who your father is and get a job and make money, then where's the there? I guess that's my question.
I actually don't, since in the case of Jared Kushner and Ivanka Kushner, Trump Kushner, pardon me, they were both federal office holders. So there would be actual regulations on their making money and doing commercial enterprises while working for the government. We both speculate that they made money, but I've actually seen no proof of that. And you can certainly make money as a sibling or a relative of the president. Billy Carter sold Billy beer, and he made a lot of money when his brother Jimmy was president. Nothing wrong with that. That was perfectly legal. I think it's how you make money, but influence peddling and setting up meetings with people in the federal government, that constitutes lobbying, and there are regulations about that.
Absolutely. And if any laws are broken, whether it be Hunter Biden or the Trump family, I want them prosecuted. I
agree with that.
Yeah, I don't care whether you're a Republican or a Democrat. Okay, so help me out here, Roger. I'm an independent. I am not a Trump supporter for a lot of different reasons. I understand you've had a relationship with the man. I get that. I don't want to go into Trump and the reasons why I would never vote for him. But with that being said, I want to ask you this. Moving forward now, what do Republicans stand for? Because I know what Democrats stand for the most part. Equality.
I think that's pretty simple. We stand for energy independence. We
Okay.
don't think we should be buying oil in the Middle East or from Venezuela or should have to deal with the Russians for it. We feel we stand for lower taxes and less regulation, which created the most robust economy in American history with the highest rate of job growth, the highest rate of wage growth, the highest rate of the lowest levels of unemployment among all Americans. We favor a strong national defense, but I don't think we should be going around the world looking for endless foreign wars to get into where our inherent national interests are not absolutely clear. And I was particularly happy about the criminal justice reform that took place under Donald Trump. The First Step Act, the Second Chance Act. I think our current drug laws are racist. I've been saying this for 30 years. I think the 1994 crime bill is flawed, and we need a drug law reform. We certainly need more criminal justice reform, but it was Donald Trump and Republicans and Democrats working together that got that done, which I think is very important.
Question.
Yes, go ahead.
Question, Roger. Sorry to interrupt. If Republicans are for wage growth, why don't they raise minimum wage? Why do they always vote against that?
Well, because if you don't have any employers, you can't have any employees. And in some cases, raising the minimum wage would put businesses out of business and would destroy jobs.
Anything that the Biden administration has done in the last couple of years that you applaud? Anything that he's done that you say, hey, that was a good thing?
I was in favor of the concept of the troop withdrawals from Afghanistan. It was the method in which it was done that I disagree. That was a continuation, by the way, of a Trump administration policy. I would like to see all of our men and women brought home from the Middle East. I also liked, at least thematically, Biden's position on those who were incarcerated for the nonviolent crime of possession of drugs, which is contrary to his position when he was chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. As I understand it, it has no actual results, meaning nobody got freed from prison because of it. But in terms of concept, I think it was the right thing to do.
I want to ask you this. I'm sure Republicans talk to you all the time, Roger, especially lately, and they say, man, why would you still support Donald Trump based on the things he said and things he's done? I understand you like his policies. I understand you have a personal relationship with him. But as you know, Roger, there are a lot of Republicans today that believe Donald Trump is not good for the Republican Party moving forward for obvious reasons. So if somebody approaches you and says that to you, how could you still support this man? What is your response?
I think you just answered my question. First of all, I think his policies were very good for the country. I'd like to see a return to them. I also have a personal relationship with him, but it's mostly about his record. I would like to see us return to a robust economy. I don't want World War III in the Middle East. I'm very concerned about that and the way the tensions there are just ratcheting up. Our support of the Ukrainian war is in violation of a 1994 treaty that we signed with the Russians, in which we agreed not to push Ukraine into NATO. In other words, not to put Western-funded missiles, offensive missiles, in Ukraine. No, I don't love Vladimir Putin. No, I'm not pro-Russian. Yes, I think he's an authoritarian thug, and I think he's very dangerous. But I'm a non-interventionist Republican in the tradition of Ron Paul and Rand Paul. I don't want World War III.
Right. How often, if you don't mind me asking you, Roger, how often do you speak to Donald Trump? Like, when was the last time you talked to him?
Well, only occasionally. I had a reporter ask me whether I talk to him every day. I don't even speak to him every week. I speak to him occasionally.
Has he talked to you about Mar-a-Lago at all and these supposed classified documents that he took with him? What are your thoughts on that? And have you had a conversation with him about that?
The answer is no and no.
What do you think about the story? You think it's true?
It's very hard to understand because we don't know from either side what documents we are talking about. It appears to me that previous presidents also maintained classified documents. We have a huge lack of information here. Neither the government nor the Trump attorneys tell us what documents we are talking about. And therefore, it's hard to make a judgment. But it appears to me that he's being held to a different standard than previous presidents. I say that only on the surface because I have no knowledge beyond what I have read in the media.
Understood. Do you agree with me, Roger, that if Donald Trump had stayed off of Twitter and he stopped the personal attacks every single day, that he would probably be our president today?
No, I don't agree with that.
You don't. So why is he not the president then?
Well, I think COVID-19 and the lockdowns had a lot to do with it. It really crimped his personal campaign style. The rallies were highly successful. He was prevented from doing them. He is certainly polarizing, but then Joe Biden is no less polarizing. Hillary Clinton was polarizing. I think he had a very strong record to run on. I wish he had talked more about his record in the area of criminal justice reform, something he should be very proud of. He didn't talk about it much, but I don't attribute it to his Twitter postings.
I'm surprised to hear you say that, though. You think Joe Biden is just as, I mean, I know you don't like Joe Biden. You don't like a lot of his policies. I get that. But you think Joe Biden is just as polarizing as Donald Trump? When Donald Trump attacked POWs, he said he didn't respect John McCain because he was captured. He attacked Ted Cruz's wife on her looks. I mean, listen, I could go on and on with the list. He's had 25 women accused him of sexual assault or rape. Every day he's attacking somebody. You really believe that Joe Biden is just as polarizing as Donald Trump?
Yes, I actually do. And I've seen data because the data indicates that he's extremely polarizing.
All right. Fair enough. Well, Mr. Stone, I appreciate your candor and I appreciate your time and coming on. We'd love to have you on again down the road and appreciate your time, sir. Have a good holiday and thank you so much.
God bless you. Good to be with you again.
Thank you. Same to you, Roger. Thank you. That's Roger Stone joining us on Pushing the Limits. Asked him a lot of questions about Donald Trump. I actually thought that he spoke to Donald Trump more than just on a monthly basis. I actually thought it was, I would have thought it was a weekly basis, but hey, he's got a lot of loyalty to Donald Trump. Donald Trump also pardoned him. That might have something to do with it. I don't know, Michelle. Yeah, that might have something to do with it. What did you make of that interview?
It was certainly not what I was expecting.
He is well spoken. You can't attack him for that. He definitely answers questions and he's not afraid of anything.
I think you never know what Roger Stone you're going to get, right?
He was pretty. I tame Republicans, don't I?
Well, I mean, it was an interesting Roger Stone that you got there. He was very tame. He was very mild, and
hey, I tried to grill him as much as I could.
You know,
but, in a respectful way.
It is what it was, and that's all I could say.
There is a way to hard press people with questions and being respectful at the same time. Roger Stone was respectful to me, so I am going to be respectful to him. I obviously disagree with a lot of the things he said. I don't believe Joe Biden and Donald Trump can be compared at all to the country as far as what was the word he used. I'm trying to remember the word he used at the end of that interview, but
I think he's
polarizing.
Equally polarizing.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think you can find anybody in this country more polarizing in the political spectrum in my lifetime than Donald Trump. But Roger Stone has allegiance to Donald Trump. He also claimed on this show that he had nothing to do with January 6th. Obviously, there are a lot of Democrats and people out there that would disagree with that statement. But I did get him to agree that we need to move past 2020. So that's a good thing. I did get him to agree that there wasn't widespread voter fraud, which I'm shocked that I got him to admit because he's been on the.
I think if it says anything, and I think I've been saying this to you a while I've been on the show with you, is that I think the majority of Republicans, those that you respect, those that you don't respect, a lot of us we don't believe the things that I think you're constantly thinking we do believe. We don't believe that there's widespread voter fraud. We don't think Marjorie Taylor Greene is God's gift to the leader of the party. So I think there's a lot more normalcy in the Republican Party than you think there is. There's just too much highlight on the cray-cray.
Yeah, but sometimes I believe it needs to be highlighted when there are faces of the party that are saying, like Marjorie Taylor Greene saying that if I was with Steve Bannon, we would have won the January 6th insurrection. And I do find it interesting that this is where I'm not sure if I agree with Roger Stone or not. All of a sudden, he doesn't know anything about these Mark Meadows texts. No, I don't think he was being honest with me there.
I'm not saying he was being honest the whole time, but I'm saying when all of a sudden Roger Stone sounds like a voice of reason, okay, that maybe there is a point to the fact that, like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is not the voice of the party. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
All I'm saying is this. I've interviewed some wackadoodles in my lifetime, and all I can say is sometimes when they come on the show, they sound somewhat reasonable. I've interviewed Tommy Lauren. I've interviewed some far right wackos, and she's a wacko. But when she came on my show a few years ago, she sounded like a moderate. She sounded like an independent.
Well, she actually, I've gotten to know her kind of personally over the years. She's one of those people who I think when she was a lot younger, she was far more polarizing than she is today at the age of 30.
Yeah.
Right. And so people do change.
People also say things so they can get clicks and so they can make money. And
100%. And
Candace
that's kind of who
Owens,
she was.
Exactly. Candace Owens and Tommy Lauren are very similar in that category. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, Michelle.
Okay.
And when we come back, I haven't really gotten your take in depth. Talk to Roger Stone about that. And I don't disagree, by the way, with a lot of what he said. I can't believe I'm agreeing with Roger Stone. I disagree with the hate on Brittany Griner, her hating America. But I want to ask you about that when we come back.
Okay.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Pushing the Limits right here on KSHP.
Hey, everybody, are you struggling to find a pizza place that reminds you of Brooklyn? That true blue New York style pie? Well, worry no more. Saloon's Italian Eatery Pizza is a knockout. Located at 467 East Silverado Ranch Boulevard, just off of Premier Road, half a mile east of South Point Casino, just minutes from the Las Vegas Strip. Come by and grab a slice of pie. Plus, check out our Brooklyn-inspired Italian cuisine. Our sandwiches are super. Hero, that is. Because why be a sub? You can be a hero. Salone's Italian Eatery is here to serve you phenomenal food, Vegas. Forget about it.
Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years and prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationship with the prosecutors and judges, knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555. Hey, everybody, it's Brian Shapiro from Pushing the Limits. I want to tell you guys about Sahara West Urgent Care and Wellness. They're conveniently located on the southwest corner of Sahara and Jones. They're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. At Sahara West Urgent Care, they'll take care of all your healthcare needs. They offer routine services such as physicals, STD testing, car accident treatment, and work injuries. You name it, they do it. They have on-site X-ray, EKG, ultrasound, and labs. They treat chronic conditions such as asthma, blood pressure, diabetes, and more. They also offer general wellness exams and treatments such as testosterone enhancement and cancer screening. They're located on Sahara, 6125 West Sahara Avenue. Their number is 702-248-0554. And the best part, they accept most major insurances and affordable cash pay prices. Office visits starting at just $95. And I'm also a client. So please give them a call, 702-248-0554. Look, it's impossible for the average person to find a great attorney out there. There's so much misinformation. Now, let me introduce you to former Chief Deputy District Attorney Thomas Moskal. He was Las Vegas's top DUI prosecutor for years. He prosecuted the most high-profile DUI cases in Clark County. No one knows more about DUI law in Nevada. Google it. If you get charged with DUI, whether it's a misdemeanor or even more importantly, a felony, you need Thomas Moskal representing you. His relationships with the prosecutors and judges, his knowledge of DUI law to work for you. So give him a call now or text him at 702-848-5555. It's your life and liberty that's at stake. Don't wait. Call now. That number again, 702-848-5555.
As a three-time international award-winning restaurant, Joe's New York Pizza uses only the freshest and best available ingredients. From giant slices of hand-tossed pie to calzones, strombolis, fingers, and wings, Joe's serves all your favorites. Stop in for a slice at one of their 2 Las Vegas locations at Paradise and Harmon or South Las Vegas Boulevard, or you can check out their menu at joesnewyorkpizzalv.com.
All right, welcome back to this Push the Limits. I want to tell you guys about my favorite gaming bar. Oh, pardon. I was thinking of Roger Stone. Yeah, I was thinking of Pardon. That's what it is, Mark. My favorite gaming bar in Vegas is Jackson's Bar and Grill. I love it. Every Sunday, their December promos earn 200 points. You get $50 for free play. On Mondays, you earn 200 points. You get a free bottle of wine. And Tuesdays, 10 times points all day. Some restrictions apply. Jackson's Bar and Grill. Please check them out. Flamingo and Jones. I love it there. In fact, I'm going to head out there today and grab some lunch. Maybe I'll invite Roger Stone with me. I don't know. But anyway, please check them out. Michelle Mortensen joining me in studio. Michelle, quickly before we talk about Brittany Griner, got some really fun guests tomorrow. I been talking a little bit, Michelle, I don't know if you're familiar with this story of a coach out there in Texas who was our UNLV coach for a week. He's one of the top coaches in the country. His name is Chris Beard. Story came out the other day. He's arrested in the middle of the night for allegedly assaulting his wife and strangling her.
Wow.
Really serious stuff. We've learned some more information over the last 24 hours that it was actually his fiance that called the police. She claimed that, according to the police report, that he was throwing her around the room.
So was it a fiance or a wife? Was
Fiance.
there a wife and a fiance?
No, just a fiance.
Okay.
My understanding. He was throwing her around the room. Apparently, she had bruises on her legs and marks on her neck. Really bad. So he was released on $10,000 bail. He's suspended indefinitely without pay from the University of Texas, but I don't think he'll ever be coaching college basketball again. So Thomas Moskal is going to be joining us on the show tomorrow to give his legal expertise on
And
this.
next question, just because I don't know, why was he only the coach for a week? Was he fired after a week,
No,
or did he ditch after?
No,
a
he
week?
ditched us. So he was hired here for a week, and he went to Texas Tech, which he claimed was his dream job. But I don't think he ever wanted to be here. And he played UNLV. Karma. I feel horrible, by the way, for his fiance. I feel horrible for his family. I don't feel anything for him other than he needs to go to jail. But because he has money, and because he will probably get, listen, I'm saying probably. I hope I'm wrong. His fiance to try to drop charges, that could happen, but that might not help him. And now we're going to talk to Thomas Moskal about this tomorrow. If, in fact, she wants to drop charges, can he still be charged? I don't know what the laws are. So Thomas Moskal will be joining us tomorrow to talk about this case. Eric Harper, the UNLV athletic director, is going to be joining us tomorrow. Really looking forward to talking to him because just hired a new football coach, and he must be really happy with what's going on with UNLV women's and men's basketball, the men 10-0. So Eric Harper, UNLV athletic director, will be joining us tomorrow. And Lindsay Glazer, who's a very funny comic.
Yes.
She's going to be, I believe she's performing at Pauly Shore's Comedy Club in the Art District this weekend. So she'll be joining us for a little bit tomorrow.
When are you going to get the weasel on when I'm here?
The Weasel's been on this show
I
before.
know, but
Yeah.
he's never here when I'm here.
Well,
When will you
I'll
make
give
that
him.
marriage happen?
I'll see if he's okay with me giving you his cell phone number. The Weasel. Yeah. Pauly Shore's awesome, and I love him. And I put on a great show a few months ago. So I just got a call too from Mark. You've been an NBA fan for a long time. Tell me if you remember this name. This is a guy that came off the bench for the Milwaukee Bucks. He played in the NBA for 13 years. Paul McKeskey. Does that name ring a bell? He played in the NBA for 13 years, and he played against Michael Jordan, Larry Bird. So he might be coming in studio this week. He just moved to Vegas. He's a big guy. He's like freaking 7 feet tall. So he'll be joining us later on in the week as well. And we have the coach from the Desert Dogs, the new professional lacrosse team. Wayne Gretzky, Steve Nash, and Dustin Johnson are all co-owners of this team. They're all going to be in Vegas Friday. So that'll be fun. And we got the coach coming on. All right, let's get down to business, shall we? I asked Roger Stone about Brittany Griner.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be a fair-minded individual. I don't think it was a good deal. The reason why is who we let go. But this arms dealer was set to get out of prison in 5 years. I wish he was behind bars the rest of his life. Sometimes you have bad deals to try to get an American home. I'm not a huge fan of Brittany Griner. She had a domestic violence dispute as well. Not, her and her ex-fiance, her fiance at the time. Not a huge Brittany Griner fan. I'm glad she's home. Wasn't a good deal. Here's what I don't like. I don't like the Roger Stone, and that's many conservatives out there that want to attack Brittany Griner. Why? Because she didn't stand during the national anthem. That doesn't mean
I
you
don't think
hate.
he attacked her, though. Not in your interview.
He was very nice about it, but there are a lot of conservatives that are making the claim, oh, she belongs in Russia because she hates America. There was no evidence to support the fact that Brittany Griner or any of these black athletes that take a knee hate America. I don't like it, and it's always conservatives that are bringing this up. It's always Republicans. I don't understand that, Michelle. Help me. I don't know if you feel that way, but I don't think Brittany Griner hates America.
Well, I hope she loves America now. I'm sure now, after being in a Russian prison and seeing how wackadoodle-do it is over there, I bet she came home and is like, I freaking love this country. And for all of our faults and all of our flaws, we are still the best country in the world. And sometimes it takes leaving this country to realize just how freaking fantastic America is. And I hate what happened to her. What happened to her was freaking horrific. I can't even imagine. This arms dealer that we let go. Oh, good Lord. So Russian state media interviewed him immediately after he was back. And he was like, hot dog, I can't wait to do whatever Putin wants to go against Ukraine. Listen, I'm scared of this dude. I'm scared of what this dude might do to Ukraine. I think it's freaking awful. I'm so sad that we made this trade.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there was another option. Obviously, I am not classified enough to know what the deals were. It's disappointing, but I think anyone who's disappointed she came home, I think that's kind of a sick or lowball answer, right? Like,
I'm going to take Joe Biden at his word that this wasn't just a choice. And I also think it goes way deeper with this guy, Whalen. And I know Roger Stone alluded to this, leaving this man behind. Well, maybe there's a reason why Russia is treating his case differently. And I've heard different stories about this hard drive. He was convicted of espionage. Now, is it a possibility that he's innocent? Sure. But it's also a possibility that he's guilty. We know what Brittany Griner did.
Even Joe Biden says the charges against Whalen are fraudulent and totally fake. Even Joe Biden has said that.
He said that.
And even Joe Biden says he wants this guy to come home.
Of course.
So let's not say that. He was handed a hard drive at a wedding. And whether that was some James Bond junk and it truly did have some documents or not, does not mean that dude belongs to rot there.
Okay, well, I tend to think that there's something else going on with this case. Also, if you look at this man's history, we're not talking about somebody that didn't stand during the national anthem. We're talking about somebody that was right below the level of being dishonorably discharged. Okay. He was writing fake checks. He was, listen, could he be innocent? Yes. All I'm saying is I'm not sure I'm buying the fact that Vladimir Putin was willing to release a black gay woman. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just going by the way they think in Russia, some of them. Okay, we'll let her go, but we're going to treat this case differently. I believe there might be some there to the case. Now, I could be wrong, and I hope I'm wrong, and I want him to be sent home. Let me be very clear on that. His family is suffering. He's suffering. I want him home as well. But I personally believe that there is something there and a reason why Russia is treating his case differently. And let's be honest, these are two completely different cases. We have vape pen, cannabis oil. And then we have somebody who is charged with a very serious crime, which is espionage. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I don't kind of track the way you're going there, because if he was a spy for America and he was spying on Russia, why would you be like, yeah, I'm totally okay that he's in that Russian?
I'm not okay.
I mean, he's an American. He is an American Marine. Yes, I understand that while he was a Marine, he committed something that was like close to larceny while he was there. And that's why he was almost dishonorably discharged. That was not the case, though. He's an American and he should come home. And that is, and Joe Biden thinks that. I think most Americans think that. I don't think you're going to find any American who's going to argue the point that, like, no, he deserves to be.
I'm not making that
Nobody's
argument.
making
Let me
that
be very
point.
clear and be as articulate as I can. I want him to come home.
Right.
I'm not saying otherwise. What I am saying is these are two completely different cases, and people are trying to conflate the two and make it like Joe Biden left this guy behind.
I don't think Joe Biden left this guy behind. I think
that's what Roger Stone just said.
Where the difference is that for whatever reason, this evil dictator, Vladimir Putin, is unwilling to let this guy go.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know.
Why was he willing to let her go?
You know what? I cannot get into the mind.
I was surprised.
Of a crazy, lunatic, evil dictator. I have no idea what that fool thinks. I have no idea why that fool was willing to negotiate with Joe Biden on this.
You know, Trump was negotiating with Putin, and he would not.
Trump did not win. Trump did not get the guy out.
Right. And yet he claims, I would have been able to get him out. You had time to get him out. I don't understand that argument either. Trump just admitted in an interview that he had an opportunity and he turned down the deal.
The truth of the matter is Putin was far more willing to work with Joe Biden than he was willing to work with Donald Trump. That is true.
I agree. I don't hear many Republicans making that statement. though.
Well, I don't know that's necessarily a good thing. I don't know that it's
Right.
a compliment.
Right. But, well, I think in this case it should be because he got an American home. I remember Otto
Yeah, but
Warmbier.
Brittany Griner was not arrested during Trump's term, right? She got
No,
arrested
no.
during Biden's term.
Correct.
So Brittany Griner is 100%, Biden's responsibility.
Yes. Here's
And-
what I'll say about Brittany Griner, and I've been saying this all week. Brittany Griner, you're right. She needs to be extremely thankful to the Biden administration, the fact that she's an American. That's number one, and hopefully she is. Number two, I want her when she's ready, because she's been through a lot of trauma. I can
Yeah.
only imagine. When she's ready, could be a month, could be a year, whatever. Hold a press conference. Own what you did. You put this country in a very bad situation. Own what you did. Be an example and make sure that other athletes don't make the same mistake you made. Own it. That's number two. Number three, and I know her wife alluded to this in a press conference. You guys now, you were a prisoner. You need to do whatever you can and keep your voices going in regards to getting Whalen out or any Americans that are unjustifiably behind bars. If they do those three things, if Brittany Griner does those three things, I'll give her all the credit in the world. She needs to do that. I know she picked up a basketball the other day and she was dunking. That's great. Now is the time where hopefully she's ready, I hope, to hold a press conference and own what you did.
Well, she can't hold a press conference because a press conference won't make her any money. So the truth of the matter is she is working right now with her agent or whomever to go to the highest bidder, whether that's 60 Minutes, whether it's Dateline,
Well, that's
whether it's
unfortunate.
2020.
She shouldn't do that.
Because this will be one of the most coveted interviews.
I have a problem with that, Michelle.
But you know I'm right. I'm not
you
wrong
might be.
here.
You might be. I can tell you right now, I have a serious problem with that if she does do that.
Yeah.
She needs to do one interview or one press conference. Own what you did. I'm not saying she's a murderer. She made a mistake. She didn't deserve to be treated the way she was treated. But you need to own it because I don't want others to make the same mistake she made. And that's all I want.
I may have made this up or I heard it and it was fake news. And so forgive me, but didn't she lose a finger out there?
No.
No. Okay.
That she would struggle to have a basketball career.
That's what I thought. So
Yeah.
that's why I thought maybe,
Yeah,
but no. So she's good. No physical harm,
So
permanent physical harm.
No, she's and her family's saying she's doing very well. She'll be playing basketball, and I wouldn't be surprised if she was playing basketball this upcoming WNBA season. I think she looked
When
okay.
does that start?
She's got several months. She looked pretty good as walking off the plane. She didn't look like she was malnourished or anything. She looked okay. She looked like herself. She cut her hair a little bit because I guess it was freezing out there, and she had to cut her hair because her hair was like getting frozen or something. I don't know, but she seemed to be good in good spirits on the plane. I saw some video of her smiling on the plane, saying she was very happy. She'll be playing basketball again soon. And, sadly, and I don't agree with this, but because of what happened to her, she's now more popular than any other WNBA player when she comes back.
That's true.
And I don't agree with that, by the way. I don't want her to capitalize off of a mistake she made in Russia. Capitalize off your basketball talents, but she needs to hold a press conference and she needs to own what she did. And she needs to be very appreciative, which I'm sure she is, by the way, to the Biden administration, and just take it from there. I understand why people are not happy with this trade. It was a bad trade. But what I don't want is, this is hypocrisy. I use this term all the time. Donald Trump released 5,000 Taliban terrorists. Now, I'm sure he had his reasons for doing so. I'm sure he didn't want to do that. But he did that when he was trying to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, if you remember. 5,000. Now, if you have no problem with that, but you have a problem with this arms dealer, then I think you need to sit this one out. I have a problem with both.
Yeah.
I have a problem with both. Again, I use the term hypocrisy. And then when I bring up these 5,000 Taliban terrorists, you don't know what you're talking about. Prove it. It's been proven by Bolton and members of Trump's administration. This was a deal that was done with the Taliban, and in return, Trump was promised no soldiers would be hurt, no Americans would be hurt. Listen, I'm glad if that happened. I'm glad that no Americans were hurt, but you got 5,000 Taliban terrorists out there right now. Joe Biden released one. Now, that one is very dangerous.
Yeah.
That one can cause a lot of harm and death, and I hate the fact that he is freed. I hate it. I'm happy Brittany Griner's home. But I try to use the term hypocrisy all the time. It's like, why can't people be consistent? Trump released those prisoners, 5,000 terrorists. Biden released one. Both wrong.
I don't think it's about the number though. And I only say that because we are not privileged
Yep.
to the classified information
Mhm.
as to why these deals are made, who these people are. I think all we are able to do is to say, wow, I really hate that that happened. Do I hate that a bunch of Taliban were released? 100%. Do I hate that this, what's his nickname? Something of death.
Yeah.
You know, do I hate that he was given back and that he might rain hell on Ukraine, a country I care for a great deal? I do 110%. And I don't think that's being hypocritical, because for me, it has nothing to do with, it doesn't have anything to do with Biden or with Trump. It has to do with, I hate that we're making these decisions, but I personally am not privileged. I don't have the classified information as to why these deals are being made.
Yeah.
So it's honestly, when this is like, what do you call it? Monday morning quarterbacking at the end of the game, and you pretend like you're a football player and like, well, you know what I would have done? I would have done this. Tom Brady's a fool for not doing that. You're not freaking Tom Brady. You don't know how to run. You don't know how to do any of that crap.
Yeah.
Trust me, you're not the president. You don't have any of this classified information. There's really nothing you can say about it at this time. All you can say is, I hate that that guy was released, and leave it at that.
Right. I just think
You know?
that the hate towards Brittany Griner by some is just, it's so disgusting. I mean, listen, there are still people in this country. We've come a long way, but there are still people in this country that hate the fact that she's a black female that is gay, and those people are bigots. This should have nothing to do with that, but I feel like a lot of the hatred is, number one, Joe Biden happens to be president, so some Republicans don't want to give him credit for anything. And another issue is that she is a black female who happens to be gay, and some people don't like that either. And
I don't think that's what people had an issue with. I think it really was more of the anti-American, kneeling for the.
I don't think that's
the anthem.
anti-American. Why do you feel that way?
I feel that it's free speech, and you have the right to do whatever the heck you want.
Right.
And I believe that the gentleman who kind of encouraged everyone to do that was kind of making a compromise that if you want to have a statement,
Take
go
a
ahead
knee.
and kneel, take
Right.
a knee, and that's the more respectful thing to
Right.
do.
Former soldier.
And I agree. Yeah, some of my brother knew. They played soccer together.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know the kid's name.
Yep.
And so I'm okay with all of that. I just know that for me personally, when that national anthem plays, I'm going to stand. I think it's a sign of respect.
I stand as well.
And I think
but-
it's important. And so I think a lot of people are offended by that. And
I'm
I
not
will,
I'm not
but I will
offended.
also say this, is that you choose
Right.
to be offended. The other day, some lady in a parking lot comes up to me and she goes, "Happy holidays." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, happy holidays to you." I thought it was so sweet that she said that to me. And I thought to myself afterward on the car, there's so many people who would be offended by that. Like,
Yeah.
Ryan, you say Merry Christmas.
Well, Michelle, let me
That's
ask you a
because
question.
you choose to be offended.
Understood.
And that's what offense is.
Agree.
It's a choice.
Well, that's cancel culture. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to put you in this position. Let's just say you're a professional women's basketball player. Which you're not,
Ooh!
hypothetically.
I'm
speaking.
tall all of a sudden. And
Say-
thin.
say this
Dang.
Say this was right after George Floyd, for example. You got 7 or 8 black players on your team, and they say, "Hey, Michelle, we want to take a knee as a team because it's for racial equality. We want to call out bad policing. We want everybody to be treated the same. Will you kneel with us for racial equality?" What would you do?
I would not kneel with them, but I would let them know that I love them and I agree with them, but that I'm going to show respect by standing for the national anthem, but that I stand with them in every way, and that I would make a statement with them. I would make a verbal statement, and that I would stand by them shoulders. I would do any, but I'm not with the national
Okay.
anthem. I'm going to
But
stand.
okay, well, that's your personal
That's my
belief.
You said what would I do? That's
Okay,
what I'm going to do.
that's your personal belief. I would take a knee, but I think what's important for me is that when you talk to all these players, including Brittany Griner, they say, "I am absolutely not doing this to show disrespect for our brave men and women in uniform." They all say the same thing. We're doing it to raise awareness for equality. We don't want to see police brutality. So when somebody correlates them taking a knee to hating America, I think the American flag is very similar to religion in this aspect. It is what you make it out to be. I'm not saying you should be burning the American flag. I'm not saying you should be doing stuff like that. But I'm saying when it comes to taking a knee, it's a personal choice. Just like religion is a personal choice. You have the right to believe what you want to believe. And I don't think any of these players hate America. I don't think Brittany Griner does. They did it because they want to raise awareness. And quite frankly, I don't see anything wrong with that. And people say, "I don't want politics interjected in my sports." It's not. When the game is being played, they're not taking a knee. So I don't understand that statement. That's just my personal belief. Like, you have a right to stand or kneel. I stand during the national anthem. I take my hat off so everybody could see my bald head. But if I was on a team with a bunch of black players, even today, and if they said, "Hey, Brian, here's why we want it," I would ask them why, even though I know we're doing this because we want to raise awareness for racial equality. I would take a knee, and I'm not offended by anybody who takes a knee. Not now, if somebody was taking a knee and that person made comments about hating America. I hate America. F this country. And then he took a knee for that reason. Yes, I would have a problem with that. I would be offended by that. But when you have these players with many of them, I would think good hearts, they come from the right place. They just want to raise awareness. And then people say, that's not the time or place. Oh, then when is? So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah,
we got
I'm
a
not
minute
sure. I'm not sure it raises much awareness. I'm not sure how effective of a protest it was. But at the same time, like I would say, when you have a relationship with someone, you
Yep.
could say, hey, I get that that's what
Yep.
you're going to do. I'm going to do this, but know that I stand with you and that I love you and that I support you, but I'm going to stand. And so that's the difference that I make about it. I think a lot of it comes down to relationship and choosing to be offended.
Yeah.
And just like whether it's like you say, Happy Hanukkah or Merry Christmas to someone, it's a choice to be offended. And I am personally choosing not to be offended, except when certain men come at me and try to either, try to say that I'm not intelligent.
I'll
or try
tell Chris when to
demean me.
behave, okay?
But for the most part, I choose not to be offended.
Well, Michelle, you didn't offend me.
And Chris Wynn never offends me
Good.
either. Chris is fine.
Chris is a good guy. Well, Michelle, I know I won't see you next week for the holidays. I hope you have a great Christmas with your family. Have a great holiday, and we'll miss you. I always appreciate it when you come in every week. It's always a lively conversation,
Right?
and always a good one. This has been a fun show. I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm going to thank Roger Stone for taking the time to come on the show.
Good man. Good man.
Hey, we got UNLV Athletic Director Eric Harper joining us on the show tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. Thomas Moskals joining us. A very funny comedian, lovely lady joining us in studio tomorrow as well. We're going to have a good time. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place.